Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Moskowitz.
Shabbat Shalom.
Wow, you've changed.
Yeah.
You're looking real good. This is weird.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbi Moskowitz. So glad that you could join us tonight. Rabbi Brown and Cantor Taussig, so good to see you tonight. How are you?
Doing well. What have you been eating?
That's so great to hear. Well, we have another wonderful service planned this evening. It's so great to all be together. If you'd like to follow along in our prayer book, you can find a link on our Temple Shalom website, which is templeshalom.ca/video. Our service begins on page 128 with Hine Matov. How good it is for all of us to be together.
It truly is. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, shevet achim gam yachad.
Cantor Taussig, what are we singing next?
I think we'll continue in the middle of page 128 with Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh of Harachaman, Yedid Nefesh of Harachaman, Meshach Avdecha, El Retzonecha, Meshach Avdecha, da 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 da, El Retzonecha, Yarutz Avdecha, Kemoya, Yishtachav elai da 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 da, El mol hadarecha, Yarutz Avdecha, Kemoya, Yishtachav elai da 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 da, El mol hadarecha.
Boy, this pandemic has really aged me. I used to have hair. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's the first day of winter break. So things are, and the end of Hanukkah. You can imagine what life is like in our homes, but it's lovely to have Shabbat together and to be inside on this cold, wet, really wet, and very, very dark evening. The winter solstice is just a few days away. So we will bring the light, even though Hanukkah is over. We'll bring the light tonight as we join page 131. Shiru Adonai, Shir Chadash. We sing unto God a new song.
Shiru Adonai, Shir Chadash, Shiru Adonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Adonai, Baruch Shemo, Basru miyom liyom Yeshuato, Zapru Bagoim Kevodo, Bechomim Niflehotav, Ki Gadol Adonai, Holal Meod, Norahu, Al Kol Elohim, Yada da 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 da
Every Friday at our Shabbos table, we sing Shalom Aleichem. It's the only song I think that we all sing together. And to welcome Shabbat, to welcome the Sabbath angels. And as we do, it just transforms our home, as I hope hearing it tonight transforms you. It's the soundtrack of Shabbat for many of us. Many of us grew up with Shalom Aleichem as the opening credits, if you would, the opening song for our Shabbos experience. Page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMalachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Bachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMalachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMalachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMalachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu.
Page 138, we find there the words of Lecha Dodi last Saturday night for our Shabbat, I guess it was Sunday night, for our Shabbat, or for our Hanukkah concert with Dan Nichols. He sang a version of Lecha Dodi, or not so much a version, but one of the passages from Lecha Dodi. We've talked about this one before, Cantor Tasik, verse number 4, stanza number 4, which has within it the line, shake off the dust. To wake ourselves up, to shake off the dust and all the things that have kept us down, perhaps throughout these many months, and to wake ourselves up. And so we wake ourselves up for Shabbat. Lecha Dodi, page 138.
And I'm going to give that one a try. I've got it now.
Okay. So we'll do 1, 3, 4, 5, and then 9.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabla Shamor vezachor bedibor echad hishmianu el hamiuchad Adonai echad ushmo echad l'shem ultiferet v'letehila lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabla Li mikdash melech ir melucha kumitzi mitoch hapecha rav lach shevet b'amek habecha v'hu yachamol aleichem la lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabla Hitnari me'afar kumi livshi bigdei tifar techami al yad ben ishai beit halachmi parva nafshi gehala lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabla Hitoreri, kiva orech kumi ori, uri, shir daberi, kavod Adonai, alayich nigla, lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabla. Boi v'shalom ateret bala גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We'll turn ahead in our prayer books to page 263 for Chatzi Kaddish. There's Rabbi Brown. I was prepared for Yael to show up on screen.
That would have been funny.
That would have been funny. That's totally in your wheelhouse. You could have done that. Either one of you. We continue with Chatzi Kaddish, page 263. If you stood in your living rooms for the Chadodi, you can remain standing for Chatzi Kaddish. Shabbat Shalom.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, v'almad yivrachute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, bagala, uv'izman kariv, v'imeru amen, yeheshmei rabba mevarach, Le'alam olam me'amaya yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitba'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yithalel, shemei dekudesha barichu, le'ila min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiram ve'alma, Veimeru, Amen. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai Amvorach Leolam Vahed.
Baruch Adonai Amvorach Leolam Vahed.
You may be seated, and we'll join together in Ma'ariv Aravim on page 265. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna meshana itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem b'rakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid imloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim.
Avat olam beit Yisrael amchavta, Torah mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu v'kumeinu nasiach b'chokecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'b'mitzvotecha leolam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu ve'yorech yameinu uvahem nehegei yom v'layla ve'ahavatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך וביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Amen.
We want to share a reading before Micha Mocha. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Continue with Micha Mocha, page 270.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זני ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך, לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל Yisrael.
Amen. Continue now with Hashkivenu, as on this night we ask that we should feel that sense of security and peace under the presence of God's shelter. Join together Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen.
Page 272, Vishamru.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין Elohein b'nei Yisrael, Hoti le'olam. Yam bada bim bam bai, Shabbat, Shabbat, yam bada bim bam bai. Shabbat, Shabbat, yam bada bim bam bai. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash yam bada bim bam bai. Shabbat, Shabbat, yam bada bim bam bai. Shabbat, Shabbat, yam bada bim bam bai. Shabbat, 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 Shalom.
We'll rise now for the Amidahs as we prepare page 274, Avot ve'imahot.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah El Elyon Gomel chasadim tovim vekonei hakol vezocher chasdei avot ve'imahot umevi geula livnei v'neihem leman shemo be'ahava melech ozer Moshiach magin Baruch atah Adonai magin Avraham be'ezrat Sarah Ata gibor le'olam Adonai mechei metim ata rav lehoshia mashiv haruach morid hagashem mechakel chayim bechesed mechayei metim berachamim rabim somech noflim berofei cholim umatir asurim umekayem emunato Lishenei hafar, mi chamocha b'hagevurot, umidol melech, melech memid umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman hatala hachayot metim, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hametim. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh v'shimcha v'kdoshim b'chayam yalalu chasala Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh.
Amen. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh.
Amen.
You may be seated. Seems that usually most days when I call my parents and I ask them how they're doing, that my dad often says, well, it's kind of like the same as yesterday, that every day kind of bleeds into the next in this pandemic, and I know how it can feel that way often, but Shabbat is the antidote in a way. Shabbat is the way for us to say, no, we can stop and make one day of the week feel really different, even if we're in the same place with the same people, or just as we are at home, we can set it aside and just make it sacred and do that through these blessings, through joining together in our services together and having a special meal and lighting our candles, saying our brachot. All of these things are what we do to help sanctify this day, and in addition to this next prayer, which does the same thing in liturgy by declaring this day sacred and holy as Shabbat. So let's join together the bottom of 277.
Eloheinu v'avoteinu ve'imotenu v'tzevi menuchateinu kadshenu b'mitzvotecha v'tein chelkeinu b'toratecha sabeinu mitovecha v'samcheinu b'shuatecha v'taher libenu ותהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת, ותהר ליבנו, ותהר ליבנו, ותהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת. הנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו, באהבה ורצון שבת קודשך, ואנוכו בישראל, מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
Amen. Join in the English in the middle of 278. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel u'tehi l'ratzon Tamid avodat Yisrael. Yisrael amecha. El karov lechol koraf b'nei el avodecha v'choneinu. Shefach ruchacha Aleinu v'techazena heineinu v'shuvecha letzion berachamim Baruch atah Adonai Hamachazir Shechinato Letzion Letzion Letzion.
For our blessings in life, we should often think to pause to say thank you. We don't always do it, but prayer gives us an opportunity to do just that. And so we'll pause now in our service, even take a moment of reflection perhaps to call into our hearts that for which we are feeling especially grateful this Shabbat. And then we'll join together in Ve'al Kulam.
Ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam, yitbarach v'yitromam, yitbarach v'yitromam, shimcha malkeinu, tamid le'olam va'ed. Ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam, yitbarach v'yitromam, yitbarach v'yitromam, shimcha malkeinu, tamid le'olam va'ed. V'cholchem yoducha salah, v'halalu et shimcha be'emet, Ha'el Yeshuateinu v'Ezrateinu Selah. Baruch atah Adonai Hatov Shimcha, Hatov Shimcha, Ulecha, Ulecha Nae Lehodot.
Our prayer of peace, Shalom Rav, page 282.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata melech adon lecho hashalom. Ki ata melech adon lecho hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'necha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol leit v'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai Hamavarech et Amo Yisrael B'Shalom.
Amen. We'll take a moment now for silent prayer.
Amen, amen, amen. Oh, amen, amen, amen. Amen, amen. Amen, amen. Amen, amen. Amen, amen.
So we'll turn into our Siddur back to page 371 for our healing prayer, our Mishaberach, for those who are ill. And especially at this time, I want to share the names of those in our community and our extended community we are thinking of this Shabbat. We are praying for Dr. Dimitri Zanazin, Lynn Shabo, Ted Cohn, Shayna Stawicki, Jack Karp, Ralph Schulman, Svi Katz, Elizabeth Katz, Maylor Valance, Elliot Pohl, Sanford Cohen, Schneer Zalman Ben Meir Leib, Jean Angus, Sarah Chiachi, Mary Coheen, Kim Bennett, Sarah Bat Avraham Vasara, Igor Ilyasov, Ed Ozer, David Shlomo Gorney, Ronnie Goldberg, Andrea Jarjbiak, Maureen Newman, Neil Tapley, and Yana Timko. I invite you, if there are other names of people you are holding in your prayers, if you want to share their names out loud in your home or in your heart, to do so at this time. As we join with Cantor Naomi in the Mishaberach.
Mishaberach Avotenu Makor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mekor habracha le'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Thank you for that. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's wonderful to have an opportunity to just share some brief announcements with you before Rabbi Brown's drosh. Reminder, there's Torah study tomorrow morning at 8:30, services tomorrow at 10 a.m., and Havdalah tomorrow night at 7:30. Watch your email inbox this coming week. I think on Monday or Tuesday, we're going to send out a special email about some things to do 8 days before the new year. You can do the math on that. And if the number 8 stands out for you as something like a Jewish number and you're counting forward or backwards, you can figure out a few things. So watch your inbox for a few opportunities to do some things with the synagogue on that evening and the next day. Let me share just a couple other announcements with you if I can. So we talked about Torah study and talked about services tomorrow. Of course, our virtual oneg, our virtual kiddush that follows the service afterwards. Join us on Zoom for that. In the new year, things are going to be kind of quiet over this holiday break. Rabbi Brown and I and Cantor Tassic were each taking a little bit of time off, well-deserved and much needed. But we're always there for you, so just call the synagogue. And of course, if there's a life cycle emergency, you can reach it. You can reach the rabbi on call at any time. But we'll pick up in the new year with Torah study, with Torah-inspired leadership with Jeff Balin. Torah study will continue. Talmud will continue. If you haven't seen it yet, some updates are going on in the temple office as we do some things in the office we've been meaning to do for a long time to create some more space, and also in light of the new way that we have to configure things for COVID to allow more space for people. You can see in the before picture how much we were right on top of each other, and we're breaking through a wall into what was the old gift shop, still allowing that space to be used flexibly for High Holy Days, God willing. We're back in the synagogue at some point with 1,000 people again, and we can open up the wall. But when we're not doing that, we'll have that as office space and much more room, literally, to breathe. If you haven't read this story yet, I hope that you'll take a look in your email and click on this. I had a chance to talk to Sanford this morning, and our very own Sanford Cohen is really, we've always known he's a mensch. Sanford spent about 3.5 months in the hospital rehabilitating from some surgeries, and the man behind the curtain. It's a phenomenal article, so please take a moment to read it. It's originally published in the Globe and Mail, yes. Havdalah tomorrow night, opportunities to do some online games on Tuesday, December 22nd and 29th. There's a youth group. Well, that thing already happened. I think that's still happening. And Rabbi Brown was featured about making suf ganiot, so you can learn more about that. And other things are coming up at the shul. I won't read everything that you can read in front of yourself. So much happening at the temple. We are excited to be able to share those activities with you, and we are very hopeful in the new year that at some point, not now, but at some point, we'll be able to gather again. Rabbi Brown, over to you.
Thank you, Rabbi Dan. Okay. So we're very excited in our house for winter break. And at the same time, like many parents, I'm a little nervous because we have no plans. I mean, what can you do, really? So we're thinking that, the next 2 weeks will involve a lot of movies, a lot of baking and board games and video games, and hopefully some outdoor adventure too. But my daughter does have one request for a movie, and I am so excited that she wants to watch it. It's a classic. She wants to watch Fiddler on the Roof. So there's been lots of singing going on in the house, getting ready for the big premiere. But just this week, I was thinking about a particular scene, not because of our upcoming screening, but because of something that happened. So I'll take you back to the scene. You probably know it well. It's from the opening number tradition, when a student approaches the rabbi and asks, "Rabbi, is there a blessing for the czar?" And the rabbi answers, "Of course. May God bless and keep the czar far away from us." So I was reminded of this little scene when somebody asked me this week, "Rabbi, is there a blessing for getting the COVID vaccine?" I thought this was a great question. Without a doubt, both the existence of the vaccine and the actual moment of receiving the vaccine are worthy moments for a blessing. After all, what is a blessing if not an opportunity to recognize the sanctity of an act or a sacred moment in time? I have been blown away and actually kind of just staring at photos and videos this week of frontline healthcare workers receiving their immunizations. Even behind their masks, you can sense from the expression of their eyes the happiness, relief, and gratitude for reaching this day. Now, I'm sure that I'm mostly preaching to the choir here, but it would be a missed opportunity if I didn't remind us that we have a long tradition of Jewish law, custom, and rabbinic responsa dedicated to the value of getting vaccinated whenever safe and possible. It is incumbent for all of us who are able to do so safely to be vaccinated when it becomes available to us. Rabbi Elliot Dorff, who is one of the most significant contemporary modern Jewish ethicists, wrote in one of his many books that it would be a violation of Jewish law for a Jew to refuse to be inoculated against a disease, at least where the inoculation has a proven track record of effectiveness. Jews have a positive duty to have themselves inoculated against all diseases where the preventative measure is effective and available. Going back a little bit further, even before there were vaccines, there was a Jewish imperative to make sure that we did whatever we could to keep ourselves healthy. Rabbi Moses Isserles, who's also known as the Ramah, who is one of the most important halachic or Jewish legal authorities from the 16th century in Poland, he wrote this: "One must flee a city in which there is a plague, and one must leave at the onset of the plague and not toward its end. All these cases are because of danger, and one who dutifully cares for his life will distance himself from them. It is forbidden to rely on a miracle, thereby endangering oneself." In his time, in the Ramah's time, well before the availability of vaccines, evacuation was actually the most effective means of shielding people from infectious disease. But ignoring the danger of the disease and relying upon a miracle from God was never an option for him, and certainly not for us. The religious obligation for us as Jews to secure the health and safeguard the physical well-being of others is so important to our values. So, back to the question at hand. Is there a bracha, a blessing to make upon receiving the COVID-19 vaccine? I thought about 4 traditional brachot that maybe we could consider as the appropriate blessings for the occasion. So the first, which maybe is the most obvious, is the Shahian. Shahian, thanking God for giving us life, for sustaining us, and enabling us to reach this very moment. Classic. And appreciates the achievement of this moment that we have been waiting for since, well, almost a year ago. My second choice would be one that we've been saying a lot the past week, She'asa nisim lavotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh, thanking God for the miracles of ancient times and our own times. So a question is the COVID vaccine a miracle? Well, it's not the kind of miracle that Rabbi Isserles was warning us not to rely upon, but just the fact of its existence in many ways does feel like a miracle. And that recognition of the wonder and the ability to have suddenly this vaccine does feel a bit miraculous. And I kind of like that there's a connection with Hanukkah when this rollout of the vaccine happened. Okay, the third idea, benching Gomel. So maybe you've seen this in shul, that sometimes during after an aliyah to the Torah, that someone benches Gomel. Gomel is a prayer, a blessing that somebody says after recovering from a serious illness or after surviving perhaps an accident or completing a dangerous journey. We've all come through something big, and this is a recognition of that moment of turning. So perhaps that sort of blessing might be appropriate, although usually that's done in the presence of a minyan, and a vaccine, well, that usually just happens with the person who is administering the vaccine and the patient, not in a large collective group. It's okay. The fourth idea. There is a bracha, a blessing, that you say upon seeing something, experiencing something wondrous. Hatov v'hametiv. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of the universe, creativity and wonder, who is good and blesses us with the potential to bring good to others. I like this blessing. It's very beautiful. And this idea that the goodness of the vaccine is about making goodness more expansively to others fits well with a vaccine, I think, because part of what we are doing in taking the vaccine is actually not just protecting ourselves, of course, but protecting others and spreading that goodness more broadly in society. So 4 potential blessings. Any of them would be fine, and I encourage you, if you'd like, to say one of those. But in some ways, they all left me feeling a little bit too general. And in a lesson that I teach often to our B'nai Mitzvah students and their families in the Derech LeTorah program as they're approaching Bar and Bat Mitzvah, I teach them a lesson about prayer and the meaning of blessings. And we talk about what happens when there's an occasion or something for which there's not a traditional bracha that fits perfectly. What do? Well, we actually have the ability to create our own blessing. So I did. And I want to share with you the Shabbat, the blessing that I wrote for one who receives the COVID-19 vaccine. And if you would like to recite it when you, God willing, soon receive your vaccine, I would be honored to share it with you. Mikor HaChaim, source of all life. Blessed are you who brings forth life-saving combinations from the wonders of your microscopic universe to enable immunization against COVID-19. I stand in awe of the capabilities of the human mind and am grateful for the scientists who work at breakneck speed to develop this vaccine. Bless the hands of the delivery workers who have delivered these vials across the world, securely and at appropriate temperature. May the time come soon enough that enough vaccine will be distributed across our towns and cities, our nation, and the entire world. Then may we be blessed to embrace one another and never again take for granted the freedoms and opportunities that we have to engage in your world. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, that was terrific, Rabbi Brown. May we all be so fortunate to be able to use that blessing sometime soon.
Amen.
And it really is a remarkable thing. I was talking with somebody the other day, and they said it's a miracle. It's a miracle that we have these vaccines so quickly. And I corrected them. Miracles are things that can't be explained by science or nature, and there is an explanation for this. And this is science. If there is a miracle at play here, it is the miraculous ability of the human mind, of the scientific mind, to conceive of and bring about these types of therapies and vaccines. But this is, if anything, a miracle in the hands of people, blessed to be created in the image of God. And so should we all be so fortunate to be able to use your blessing one day, and to thank God, but to also thank our doctors and our scientists and all of those who volunteered in the control groups to help us bring this to the public. So thank you, Rabbi Brown. Our service is going to continue page 586. If you are accustomed to rising in your homes, when we come back to services in real places, I think we're all going to get a little more cardio in our services. Please rise for Aleinu, page 586.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, ha'tikdu la'liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchel kenu kaham, v'gor aleinu k'chohamonam, va'anachnu karim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim Hakadosh Baruch Hu Shehu Noteh Shamayim V'Yosed Haaretz U'Moshe V'Karo B'Shamayim Imo U'Shchinatu Zo B'Govei Meromim Hu Eloheinu Ein Od Emet Malkeinu Efesulato Kakatu Betarato Be'adat Hayom V'Shevota Elevavecha Ki Adonai Hu Elohim B'Shamayim Imo Ve'aretz Mitachat Einod V'nemar V'haya Adonai L'melech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu Yihye Adonai echad U'shemo echad.
Our service continues as our thoughts turn to loved ones who are not with us, but whose families are, and who need the comfort of this community, particularly at this time. We had a funeral in the congregation just last week, and again, it comes so apparent to me and all who mourn during this time, the difficulty that there is in not being able to gather with others, to not feel the comfort of that presence. For some, I know the words of our tradition are comforting, but for many others, the prayers are people, and that it's to be able to be gathered with loved ones, to feel their embrace, to sit and to tell stories that really helps us to try to begin the process of mourning, to try to draw lessons from a person's life. We are very aware of what we have lost in the midst of this pandemic. I wanted to share a poem with you tonight. It's not in your prayer book. The title is Do Not Stand at My Grave and Weep. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am in the morning hush. I am in the graceful rush of beautiful birds in circling flight. I am in the starshine of the night. I am in the flowers that bloom. I am in a quiet room. I am in the birds that sing. I am in each and every lovely thing. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I'm not there. I don't die. As we recall loved ones who died during this past week or these past 30 days, their families in the midst of Shiva and Shloshim, as I read the name of your loved one, even if you're at home, I invite you please to rise and remain standing. Bobby Cairns, Sharon Pekarsky Cairns, Catherine Levine Stensley, David Unterman, and those for whom the Yortzeit, the anniversary of the death of your loved one, falls on this Shabbat, if you too could also rise as I read their name and remain standing in your homes. Albert Ackerman, Fortune Acton, Jacob Aronson, Model Babbins, Erwin Berkowitz, Lawrence Bertrand, Alex Villenkoff, Helen Brickman, Eva Brooks, Lillian Brown, Etty Brown, Ryan Coblin, Bob Crunk, Vernon DeWitt, Harry Garfield, Sheldon Gibson, Rennie Glass, Samuel George Gordon, Jack L. Gordon, Ethel Hansen, Paul Heller, Paula Hister, Saul Hoffman, Dr. Sidney Kaplan, Max Karp, Mark Cohn, Leon Krieger, Susan McKinnon, Daniel McLaughlin, Craig Moss, Nancy Phyllis Muddinger, Alan Nichols, H. Peter Oberlander, Joel Pohl, David Rabinovich, Mo Roberts, Abigail Rosa Bueno, Harry Rosenberg, Bell Rikus, Alex Schwartz, Juliet Shapiro, Lou Swuklo, Joseph Stern, Bessie Stern, Rose Walchuk, and Rachel Zeberman. If there are others with names for Kaddish, I invite you to call them out loud in your homes, to give voice to them, or at least in your hearts, so that we can remember them for blessing together. All across the internet, as our congregation is connected in this way, we join together in mourning as we rise, recalling the names of all of those who died in defense of freedom and justice, those victims of terror in this land, the land of Israel, around the world, those who died in the Shoah and the Holocaust have no family left to remember them. And here, as we are at the end of this terrible, terrible year, or nearly so, not soon enough, all of those who've died this past year to this COVID pandemic, may their memories all be for a blessing. We rise and join together in Kadisha Tome, page 598, or here on your screen. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach yerutev v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayachon v'yamechon v'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yimaru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei l'kudesha b'richu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, daminon be'alma v'yimaru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimaru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'kol yoshvei tevel v'yimaru. Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort the bereaved among us, and we say together, Amen. May their memories be for a blessing.
Amen.
Rabbi Brown, Cantor Taussig, so good to be together again.
Wonderful to be together.
It is. Again, services tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., Torah study at 8:30 via Zoom. Join us if you can for the Oneg after the service for the virtual Kiddush. And Cantor Taussig, a closing song.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.